Thanks for tuning into the 5th tips and tutorial video brought to you by my channel, Real Fine Fishing. Today's topic, Baitcaster reels. Let's get to it. So getting right into it, this is a Baitcaster. See how it's much different than your traditional spinning reel. So to get a closer look into how different these are, is to examine the parts. So the obvious things are your reel handle right here, and your spool. What makes these so different than the spinning reel are the side knobs. So here, you have your spool release. Over here, you have your brake. And then on this side, you have a spool tensioner. And then next to that is your drag. Up here is your line guide to be able to refill your spool. So let's say you have your desired lure at the end of the line, tied and ready to go. Before casting that out, you need to make adjustments according to the weight of that lure. So what you're going to want to do is put everything essentially on a reset mode. So you take your brake and set it to its lowest setting. Then hop over to your spool tensioner and tighten that until it's snug, not too tight. When you're ready to calibrate this, all you got to do is hit this button and go over to your spool tensioner and slowly release that button until your lure drops. The way to tell if this is correctly calibrated with your lure is when your lure touches the ground and it doesn't cause any backlash, also known as bird nesting. Then when you have that all set, bring your brake up to about half. Then you should be good to go. Also, another thing to look at is this gear ratio. This bait casting reel has a 7.0 to 1 ratio. That means that one turn of your reel handle equals 7 turns of your spool. With gear ratio, that's about where you want to be. It gives you enough speed, but it also gives you the option to not go too fast. There's reels out there that are a 10 to 1 ratio, and sometimes that might be a little bit too fast. And then there are other ones that have a lower ratio, and you see where that's going. So with all that being said, you have to have the correct rod. Yes, there are bait casting rods. These are also very different than the spinning rod. One way that you can tell is this grip right here. This is for you to hold while you're casting. Another way to tell is that the direction of this grip right here is facing down. So it gives you the direction of how to hold this rod. Flipping it downward towards gravity, you'll notice that the eyelets are facing upward. Now taking a look at a spin rod, this part looks the same. It's where your reel goes. But your reel is actually going to be facing down. And when we move to the eyelets, they're facing down. So always be sure to have the right pole. Now how to set this up? You find your grip again, face it down, and you have this sleeve right here. With your spool release button facing the rod handle, you slide it in this sleeve right here. And you take this fastener and tighten it down until it's in place. So now that we have that all set, you're able to line your pole, feeding it through the line guide and through every eyelet. Then we can get our lure on. I'm going to use a Palomar knot. And now we can calibrate our bait casting reel. Following the steps from before, brake to its lowest setting, spool tensioner tight, and then click. See how it doesn't move? That's when you head over to your tensioner. You just want to loosen it just enough to where the lure drops without any backlash. No backlash. And you're all set to go, setting your brake back to about half. So now that we got the calibration part down, we can get into how to cast it. So when you're about to cast, you don't want to just hit the button and cast it. Instead, you want to press the button down and keep your thumb right on your line. Not too tight, just enough to feather it. And then when you go to cast, keep your thumb there. Release some of the pressure from your thumb, but keep it on there to feather it to prevent any kind of backlash. Another part about casting is your angle of cast. I'm going to demonstrate with this ice fishing pole. So with your traditional spinning rod, you can cast it in all sorts of directions. You can go side to side, you can even do overhead if you'd like, you can do pitches with it, etc. But with a bait casting rod and reel, you do not want to go an overhead. Instead, you want to do a fly fishing style, which is linear casting, 180 degrees. So you want to keep it to your side and have a nice linear flow. Same thing with your pitching. You can also pitch with a bait caster, but maintain that 180 degrees. Casting this way prevents any kind of backlash or bird nesting. I truly think that once you get the hang of using a bait caster, you'll find that it actually is much easier to use than a spinning reel. It has more casting efficiency, and by following these calibrations, you'll see that you have a great piece of equipment that is very strong and durable and versatile. And now it's time for the tip of the day. This tip is to complement adding new line to your bait casting reel. So when you don't have any line on your bait casting reel, you have to figure out how to tie a knot around the spool so then it can spin and collect the line. But sometimes it doesn't catch, meaning you're spinning your reel handle, but your spool is not getting filled up. A little tip for that, have a roll of tape in your tackle box. When you make that first knot on your spool, take a little piece of tape and tape the line down to the spool. So that way when you spin your reel handle, it won't have a hard time collecting all that line. Another benefit to doing that is when you're really short on line and you cast just a little bit too hard, the chances of breaking that knot off the spool, sending your lure out into the water, goes down just a little bit. That tape allows it to stick down. I hope this tips and tutorial video was helpful. Be sure to check out the other tips and tutorial videos that I have, as well as Real Fine Fishing episodes. You can find these episodes on Facebook and on YouTube. Both video platforms have exclusive videos, meaning there are some videos on YouTube that are not on Facebook, and vice versa. So be sure to check them all out. Hope you guys have a real fine day.